If you have too much clutter, it may be keeping you broke.
Have you ever felt like your money just disappears no matter how careful you budget?
One sneaky culprit, which you may not be thinking about, is the amount of clutter in your home. This video will give you some examples of how clutter actually costs you money, and along the way, we'll give you examples from our real life. But first, if you don't know us, I'm Hope.
And I'm Larry.
This is Under the Median, where every week we talk about practical frugality.
Point number one is you end up repurchasing items that you already have. And the reason why you do this, because if you have too much clutter, you probably don't have it organized. And you can't even see what all you have. So you're missing something, you don't know where it's at, and you don't want to take time to find it, so you just buy it again. And then later, you'll find it in your clutter pile of junk.
And yes, we have a personal example. Recently, we misplaced our kilowatt meter. Our kilowatt meter we use all the time. It helps us to know exactly how much energy everything in our house is using. And so clearly it was something that we were going to replace. Now, I did look around. I found it at the lowest price possible. About the time we repurchased it, Harry walks up, he goes, "Look, I found it." So now we have not but one, but 2 kilowatt meters.
And interestingly enough, it was actually in the drawer that it belongs, but it had gotten hidden under one thing that was hiding it.
So our tip for this is to make sure that everything has a place and you put everything away immediately after you use it. Now, if you're trying to figure out where you can cut corners in your budget and you're having trouble figuring out where you can lower those expenses, grab our free guide to reducing expenses. I'll make sure that I leave a link in the video description for that.
Now is a good time to give this video a thumbs up. That helps it with the algorithms on YouTube, and other people will get to enjoy it.
And if you're not subscribed to Under the Median, please make sure you subscribe. Point number 2, overconsumption leads to unnecessary spending. Now, in this case, we're talking specifically about, this could be cleaning supplies. It could be an item that you regularly use that is a food item, but you just buy it in really big quantities. Once again, we have an example. For years now, we have purchased real maple syrup. We get it at Sam's. That is the lowest price place that we have found it. And we buy it in a 32-ounce bottle. Well, when you first open that bottle of maple syrup, it seems like there's a whole lot of maple syrup in that bottle.
Yes.
So we have been, shall we say, less than judicious with the amount of maple syrup that we're drizzling on our pancakes. And at one point, we looked at each other and said, how long is this bottle of maple syrup lasting us in the first place? Because we feel like we're going through it awfully quick.
Yeah.
That's when we came up with the idea of just taking a permanent black marker, writing on the front of that maple syrup bottle the date that we opened it. By doing that, we figured out that we were going through 32 ounces of maple syrup every 30 days. We really were using a lot of maple syrup. So with that information in mind, we were able to cut back a little bit on how much we were adding to our pancakes and adding in our homemade dressings. And I was using it for a lot of cooking purposes. And by doing that, we could cut back and we can make sure that it was lasting us maybe another 2 or 3 weeks before we replaced that bottle of maple syrup.
So the problem that we found that if we have too much of some items, we're not careful with it, and we'll just use as much as we want and not track it.
Now, the next point could also do with having too much of a good thing, and that is that items sit in your refrigerator or on your pantry shelf, wherever in your home, and they either dry up or they go bad or they go rancid, or there's a reason that you can't use them. This happened to us once again recently.
Yeah.
We were gifted with a whole case of those cleaning cloths. You know, you just pull them out.
Kind of like wet wipes.
They're pre-moistened and you use them to clean around your house. Well, I stuck that case of cleaning wipes into the pantry and I used them very slowly. Apparently I used them too slowly because they actually developed mold, and then they were no good to anybody, including us. Yep. So if you find yourself in a position where you have a whole lot of any one given item, if it's too much for your family to use, then we say gift it to other people that will also be able to use it.
Clutter can also create anxiety and stress. It can actually hurt the way you function around your house because you have so much stuff, you're really not enjoying the things that you do have.
I will say that I am far more susceptible to this than Larry is. I am a visual person. And if I see clutter, it just drives me nuts. And part of the problem is, and maybe you're with me on this, you can tell me in the comment section what you think. Do you ever look around your house and think, I know exactly how I want that corner of my space to function. I know what I want in there. I know what I don't want in there. I know what I want to do in there. But getting from the way that the place is functioning now to the way you want that space to function seems like a really long haul. So I tend to give up before I've even gotten started and saying, it's just too much work. I'm going to go watch a new series on Netflix with Larry. And I think I'm done. But really what you can do, and this is what we're working on right now, is taking that and putting it in smaller chunks of time and smaller increments of things that we need to get done in that area. So when you take those and make it smaller tasks, then you can tend to get it done, especially if you put it on a list and assign a date to it. Then you tend to kind of stick to it more.
I tell you what helped me out a lot recently to recognize that we do have way too much clutter. We went to visit some friends of ours, and they have such a beautiful home, and it's very clean. There's no clutter anywhere on the floors, in between furniture, under chairs, under anything. I mean, it was so nice. And I come home and I look and I told Hope, we have some work to do because I would like our home to look a little bit more like their home did.
Point number 5 is that when you have clutter, you're missing opportunities to sell what you don't use. And yes, we have a personal experience.
I found an old vintage Christmas topper. It's the kind that has a piece inside that rotates when it gets hot, when you have a bulb lit on it. And it had a bunch of magnifying glasses around 2 globe pieces. Very classic. And I found out that it was worth about $500. People were spending that much money on them. And I think I paid maybe $10 for it at a garage sale.
No, it was a garage sale. It was like $1.
Oh, okay.
It was a lot less than that.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right. I guess it was. It was real cheap. And really, we weren't putting it on top of our tree anymore because the tree pretty much goes all the way up to the top of the ceiling. So it was just sitting around being unused. So when I did all that work of checking out the value of it, we actually sold it for about $350. I couldn't believe it, but somebody actually bought it for that. And they thought they were getting a good deal because it's actually worth, as I mentioned, about $500.
Now, here's the kicker, though. The only reason that we did the research is because Larry goes, I got a box of stuff for Goodwill. And I said, you know what? That tree topper, it's 1960s. Maybe it's worth something. So before you donate, make sure you check to see what your items are worth.
Do your research on it.
Absolutely, do your research. But make sure that you're turning items into cash. But definitely make sure you're getting rid of the clutter and working through items you don't use, don't need, and don't want to own anymore.
Storage costs can add up. This is another thing about collecting a lot of items around your home. You may have too many items that they won't even all fit in your home. So now you're renting space somewhere externally and you're having to pay rent every month to put your items in a storage area. That is, in my opinion, so wasteful. If you're not going to use it, why store it? I mean, if you have a reason for storing something like you're moving or that kind of thing, that's fine. But I really can't see Hope and I storing items and paying money for it. Why not just pass it on and let somebody else enjoy it?
Point number 7. When you have clutter, you're wasting a whole lot of time cleaning and maintaining. Have you ever started cleaning a room and thought, there's just a whole lot of nicky-nackies sitting around that I don't want to be dusting every single week? That's when you start pulling them off the shelf, finding out if they have any value before you donate them, or you pass them on to someone else. If it affects your value to feel good in the space where you're living, to use that space the way you would like to be using it, and to feel just comfortable and very peaceful in your own area, then get rid of it.
Having too much stuff can also cause you to lose focus on really what matters. You might be focusing so much on what you have in your house, you're spending time cleaning it, dusting it, maybe trying to find a place for it, and you're neglecting things like saving money, paying off debt, maybe even budgeting or even tracking what you're spending. So you need to make sure that it's not taking away from things that you need to be doing.
Here's the other thing it could be distracting you from. The fact that those things aren't bringing you happiness. Clearly, if you're spending all your time thinking about how much you dislike all the stuff in your house, it is no longer bringing you happiness.
No.
Stuff does not equal happiness. Spending money does also not equal happiness.
No.
So here's our challenge for you. One way to combat this is to make sure that your area is clutter-free and then focus on things you'd really like to be doing.
Yes.
How would you like to be spending your time? If you can create a list of ways that you can spend time with family and friends without spending a lot of money, that is an even bigger bonus.
Excess clutter isn't the only thing that can be costing you money.
We recently did a video filled with a whole lot of small but powerful changes that you could make that will help you to save more money every single month. That video is right over there. Go watch it next.